Well, we've made 12 submissions. I was actually surprised when I saw them all down, because there are some months there that we had 2 submissions. And the reason that we make submissions is that Ireland has ratified various UN and Council of Europe conventions, and the Dáil has ratified them, and they have said, by ratifying these conventions, they have said that we can have these rights. They have agreed to give us the rights that are in those conventions. So before we came along, the state went to the UN and Council of Europe and said that everyone in Ireland has these rights, but we're there now making submissions saying we don't have these rights. And we have the Irish Human Rights Commission as well, and they have made a huge report in the last year which sets out the failures of the state to protect the rights of minorities, and in particular the non-religious. So I'll list them. Well, I'll just go through them. In June, we had, the Minister for Education had set up a forum on patronage and pluralism. Well, we made a submission to that. We should have been at the forum, and there was, I think it was 7 groups, 7 main representatives they were called, of all the groups in Ireland, but 3 of those were Catholic. And we did complain about that we weren't part of the main group. And they took us in at a later date, and we had a half an hour with the forum. That's all. And if you see the census results this week, we were the 2nd largest group in society after Roman Catholics. And there was 3 Catholic representatives on that group, and we weren't there at all. So we complained about that. We said that was discrimination, and we did. They did make an effort to include us more after that, but we had to point it out to them. And in August as well, we made a submission to the Catholic Schools Partnership on enrolment policies and all that. We never got an acknowledgement or anything that we'd sent that one, but we did it. Then this is one of the UN conventions, submission to the government. The government make a report to the UN on each one of the conventions, and they brought all the various bodies in society, all the civil society organisations in to have a look at the report and to make a submission on their report before it went over to the UN, and we did that. But we are also going to get the opportunity of making a report to the UN on the state report. Now, we haven't got a date when the UN or the state is to appear before the UN. They'll go over to Geneva, but our submission will be in there, and we'll have that done. And there was also the Department of Education had a framework for giving in submissions on the school enrolment. As you know, that minorities do not have equality of access to the local school because of the Equal Status Act, and that is it's a major human rights principle, is that under the human right to education, that children should have a right to access to the local school without discrimination of any kind. And we're not inclined to put that in say that is religious discrimination, but it is religious discrimination. So we made a submission to that. And then there was the issue of the United Nations under the Universal Periodic Review. We made a couple of smaller ones to civil organisations under that, the Irish Council of Civil Liberties, Amnesty International, and we made one ourselves to the UN. And it's up on the UN website. And then we made a submission on the new Human Rights and Equality Commission. In December, we made a submission to the report on the forum on patronage and pluralism, and that's up on our website. And a submission to the European Commission Against Racism and Intolerance. That they sent a delegation over here in February, and we met the delegation. They came over with a committee on the Framework Convention on the Protection of National Minorities, and we met them as well, and we made submissions to both those organisations. And I'll speak about that later. And there's another one, number 10, is a submission to the state report under another UN convention, and again we will have an opportunity to make a submission to the UN on that, and we might even think that there's a whole process. You can go over there as well, and we might look at that as well. And on number 11, the National Council of Curriculum and Assessment, it was only a small submission. They'd only let us have, I think, 100 words in that, but we made most of them. And then, of course, we made submissions to the OSCE when we went over there a couple of weeks ago.